A neighbor's vendetta, the battle for a sweet 16. Have you ever felt that cold knot in your stomach, the kind that forms when the world goes quiet just before chaos erupts? For me, that silence was shattered by the abrupt halt of a pop song, replaced by the ominous pulse of police lights. One moment, my backyard in the quiet suburb of Fairview, Ohio, was alive with teenage laughter, silver balloons glinting under string lights. Next, it was drowned in red and blue strobes, casting shadows across my daughter's horrified face. My name is James Carter, a 52-year-old civil engineer, widower, and father to my 16-year-old daughter, Lily. That September night was supposed to be her moment to shine her sweet 16. Instead, it became a battle against a neighbor's venom, a fight for justice that would unravel secrets and shake our quiet street to its core. Lily's sweet 16 was planned with care. No wild blowout, just a taco truck, a professional DJ with a strict volume limit, and a 10 p.m. curfew. I'd even hand-delivered notes to our neighbors on Maple Lane, except for Helen Grayson. Helen, in her late 60s, was the neighborhood's self-appointed enforcer, always in pressed khakis and a blazer, her lawn trimmed to military precision. Talking to her was like stepping into a minefield. That night, she detonated. As I stood on my patio, the grill still warm, 2 officers stepped through my gate. The 60 teenagers froze, phones out, recording. Lily, in her shimmering lavender dress, stood by the balloon arch we'd built together, her eyes wide with fear. Across the hedge, Helen pointed at her, screeching, "That's her, officers. She's the troublemaker. Arrest her for disturbing the peace." The absurdity hit me like a freight train. Arrest my daughter for her birthday party? But the tear streaking Lily's cheek was real, and it lit a fire in me I hadn't felt in years. I'm a man of patience, a trait my late wife, Emily, teased as my engineer's quirk. I don't yell, I plan. I document. For 3 years, I'd kept a ledger of Helen's harassment, starting the day we moved in after Emily's death from cancer. Fairview seemed perfect, good schools, tree-lined streets. But Helen greeted us with a glare, arms crossed, announcing her role as head of the neighborhood watch. Her first letter came a week later. Our trash cans were improperly placed by 6 inches. Then our lawn had unsightly weeds. When I put up a basketball hoop for Lily, she called the city. Her complaints were petty but relentless, always cloaked in community standards. Other neighbors ran from across the street. A retired teacher warned me. Helen had driven out an Iranian family with complaints about their spicy cooking and hounded a lesbian couple over their pride flag. I started my ledger, the Chronicle of Helen, noting every incident, saving every letter. For Lily's sweet 16, I was meticulous. I got a city permit, hired a bonded caterer, and set clear rules. Helen still found her wrecking ball. As the officers SGT, Thompson and Officer Rivera approached, and I kept calm, hands loose, voice steady. "This is my daughter's birthday party," I said. "No alcohol, no drugs. It ends at 10 p.m. Feel free to look around." Helen, still on her phone with 911, ranted about hundreds of gang members and marijuana fumes. Thompson, with a weary glance at her, asked, "Is that Helen Grayson?" I nodded. He sighed. Rivera returned from the backyard, grinning. "All clear. Just tacos and soda. The DJ's contract says 10 p.m. sharp." The dispatcher crackled through. Helen had 15 prior unfounded calls about my house and 9 against others, flagged as a nuisance caller. Thompson assured me, "We're not shutting this down." They warned Helen about misusing 911 and left. But the damage was done. Lily sat on the patio steps, sobbing, her joy stolen. That night, holding my broken daughter, I vowed to end Helen's reign. I installed high-res security cameras, focusing on her hedge. I dug into public records, property deeds, old newsletters. Helen's life was a litany of complaints against playgrounds, parade routes, even city trees. Then, on a genealogy site, I stumbled on a bombshell. Her father, Walter Hayes, was listed as white in the 1940 census but colored in 1930. His father, Helen's grandfather, was a black man from Alabama who'd passed as white in Ohio. Helen, who sneered at certain music and outsiders, was descended from the very heritage she despised. I saved the birth certificate, my ace in the hole. 3 weeks later, a process server delivered Helen's lawsuit. She sued me for private nuisance and emotional distress, demanding $80,000, claiming our party was neighborhood terrorism. My brother, Paul, a lawyer in Detroit, connected me with Tom Delaney, a sharp Cleveland litigator. I showed Tom my ledger, police reports, and camera footage. This, he said, grinning, is the Picasso of frivolous lawsuits. We planned a countersuit for harassment and abuse of process. I rallied neighbors, Ron, the Khans, the Iranian family, the Parkers, whose sons Fort Helen targeted. Their affidavits painted Helen as a serial bully. At her deposition, Helen unraveled, calling our music thuggish and implying I didn't belong. Tom pounced, exposing her bias against the Khans' smelly food and the Parkers' gaudy decorations. Her lawyer, Ed Walsh, a sleazy ambulance chaser, looked ill. The next day, Helen fired Walsh and went pro-SE, filing a motion to force me to sell my house, citing 1950s covenants barring undesirables. It was Jim Crow in 2025, and Tom was gleeful. She's handed us a guillotine. The hearing, before Judge Margaret Coleman, was a spectacle. Helen, along with a chaotic briefcase, rambled about my threatening weeds and violent basketball. She waived her covenants, stammering about community harmony. Judge Coleman, a no-nonsense black woman, shut her down. Are you arguing for racial segregation in my courtroom? Helen crumbled. Tom called our witnesses, Ron, the Khans, and the Parkers. Each story buried her deeper. Coleman denied Helen's motion, called it an insult to decency, and issued a restraining order, 100 yards from us, effective immediately. Then, a stranger stood. I'm Clara Mitchell, Helen's cousin, she said, holding a family Bible. Our grandfathers were black brothers from Alabama. Helen's face collapsed, her world shattered. Clara's voice was kind but firm. We're family, Helen. The courtroom gasped. Helen was escorted out, a husk of her former self. Helen had a breakdown. Clara managed her affairs. Her house was sold to a lively couple with twins, who brought us cookies. Lily, reborn, became student council president, promising tacos at prom. My ledger closed, a testament to truth's power. Justice wasn't vengeance. It was Helen's hatred imploding. Have you faced a bully like Helen? How did you fight back? Share your stories in the comments. Did you use words, evidence, or community? Let's debate. Can patience and truth always defeat aggression, or does injustice sometimes demand a louder response? Your voice matters.